all you low ballers.
Low ballers.
Because this is the lowest budget, actually live fishing podcast that you will find. Because there's no way they could get below our budget.
I couldn't even afford to trim my facial hair.
Dog, you can't afford to pay attention. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's right. Hey, it's going to be a great episode. Now, we're going to talk Lake Fork Tournament Bass Fishing. We got the Bassmaster Elite Series, Texas Fest. This week, you guys will see a lot of content on my channel over the next week and a half of Bassmaster Elite Series coverage. I've got a preview video that I lined up with tons of drone footage of some of the areas you're going to see these guys fishing in. Should be a fun video. I'm pretty excited about putting it out because it's just, when you do so many videos, at least I'm doing something different. Here's the big kicker today. We got Dave Mercer coming on. The MC.
As they call him.
The old MC, Dave Mercer, the man who hosts all the weigh-ins for the Bassmaster Elite Series, rubs elbows with all these guys that are going to be here this week, knows them all as good as anybody you could hope for as far as knowing all of them together. He's going to come and talk shop with us today. We're going to be calling him here in a little bit. But, yeah, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about Bassmaster Elite Series stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about the Sabine River event. We're going to talk a lot about Lake Fork. We're going to talk about the Heavy Hitters event. And we're probably going to harass the crap out of each other.
Absolutely.
For some reason, like, you got to start firing back. Because I feel like our audience are like 3 people that watch this. You think there's 3?
We got 4.
4? Okay, 4. We're almost to a handful.
Almost to a handful.
Which is better than we deserve, most likely. But I feel like our audience probably feels like I bully you. Like, I feel like I come across as a bully. Because sometimes, like, I say stuff and, like, you don't fire back. Well, I'm not supposed to. Like, you're supposed to get me too, dog.
See, here's the deal. I'm still trying to work on. My PG-13 fireback.
Right.
Because everything that I fire back is X-rated or worse.
It's not okay for a live program on a family channel. I got you.
They got to preview it to show it at 2 a.m.
And how family oriented this channel is up for debate at times.
Well, I mean,
we try to keep it family oriented.
Right.
Sometimes we stray.
But anybody that knows me personally knows that my insults are usually not. You can't say them in public. If you
right. It's called demonetized.
That's what it's called. That's what it's called.
Demonetized.
Yeah.
That is absolutely what it's called. We got a few folks joining in. We want to say some hellos and how you doing to the early risers. Do us a favor as you get in here tonight. Drop us a comment so we know who we're talking to. If you enjoy these live streams, hit the thumbs up. If you don't enjoy the live streams, still hit the thumbs up because it helps us and we need all the help we can get. And also, if you guys are smarter than us, which you probably are, go ahead and share this video because I don't know how to share it. But if y'all know how to share it while we're live, share it after the fact. Y'all just do the thing you do. We always appreciate all the support that we get from every one of y'all so much. And this platform's gotten way bigger than it ever should have. Let's just be honest. I mean, I've got some of the worst audio, some of the worst editing, and questionable fishing skills. And somehow there's 21,000 plus people on this YouTube channel subscribed.
YLFG Worldwide. Let's go.
I believe they call that outkicking your coverage, dog.
Mm-hmm. I've been guilty.
Big John's done shared it. So let's say some hellos because we do appreciate all of y'all so very much. We got Big John in the house, Michael Cobb in the house, Justin Miner, Fishing with Jack. And those are the only... Well, y'all... Hold up now. Y'all don't only kill it in the comments. Y'all going to have to pick up the comments. Not many of you guys have commented yet because there's a lot more of you in here than are commenting. Our numbers are a little low for our audience. I think it's because we're starting 2 hours early.
We're a little early.
We're way early.
So I guess we gotta unless we can get some comments rolling, I guess it's time for some shameless sponsor plugs.
Shameless is that what we're doing? Are we gonna like be a real podcast and do like sponsor reads?
We might have to.
Well, okay.
You want to hit them with the first one?
Hit them with the first one right here. Have you ever gone sight fishing?
Do you want to learn how to sight fish?
Have you ever missed a fish on a bed and didn't see him and then watched the boat coming behind you and catch a fish that you never saw? If you would like to solve this problem, visit waterlandco.com or sixcentfishing.com. On either of those websites, go get some of the best polarized, sorry, brain fart, we're not a professional. Go get some of the best polarized lenses in the game and see those bedfish you've been missing. Also, punch in the code, your Lake Fork Guide, and you'll get a 10% discount on the best deal in fishing sunglasses.
Just look for the silver W.
Besides that one miscue, that was almost a professional read.
That was almost good.
That was almost good. Well, it was almost acceptable. We'll say that. Also, sixcentfishing.com. Sixcentfishing.com. Some of the most amazing plastics, some of the best hard baits in the game have been for years and years and years. Okay? For real. We're not joking. And the Waterland glasses are for real, too. We have the last one. But Six Sense Fishing makes some of the finest baits in the game. Also, same code. Your Lake Fork guy will still get you a 10% discount on anything you order, from rods to apparel to baits to whatever you want. Terminal tackle, they got it all.
They've got terminal.
I got to tell you, I almost don't have any other company's baits in my. I mean, there's a few things that I have, and I've got a few Smash Tech baits because I still work with Smash Tech, but I almost don't have any other company's baits in my boats at this point. Like, they're that good of a company and that wide in the variety they offer now.
Yeah, I fish with a lot of their soft plastics. I fish with a lot of their hard baits. I need them to come out with a spinnerbait. I need it to happen.
A spinnerbait?
Yeah, because I throw a spinnerbait a lot still.
Yeah, I just be buying War Eagles, dog.
I wear out the War Eagles, boy. I'm telling you.
War Eagle makes a good spinnerbait.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Skeeter Boats.
Howdy from Aggieland.
Thanks and gig 'em, Mr. Fred.
That's right, saw him off, baby. Cobra! Cedar Creek Freaks in the house.
Yep.
Yeah, Justin Miner was wearing them Waterlands with me yesterday, actually, and caught his first fish off bed, and he caught a few off beds, and it was the first time he'd ever caught a fish off bed, and he caught a new PB off bed yesterday.
Nice.
Just another day on Lake Fork, folks. It's no
Nice.
big deal.
So
It really was kind of a slow day, but we still got all that done.
So I'll tell y'all my road to Waterlands. Actually, it's a pretty brief story. I was out fishing with Zach Watts on Lake Palestine. We were looking around, updating the app a little bit, you know. And Zach did this thing that Zach does, where he left his cell phone on the front deck and went to put it on pad. Have you ever seen Zach do that?
Zach Watts has a cell phone in the bottom of Lake Welsh, actually.
Yeah. So, ironically enough, I see this thing tumbling down the deck, and I'm in the passenger seat, obviously. It flies up, I slap it to the floorboard, and I turn around to make sure, and my coasters go whoop, right into Lake Palestine. And so I'm like, all right. I mean, they were an old pair of coasters.
See,
I
folks,
wasn't too upset.
I really do have to work on my list of friends. I got one trying to throw his phone in the lake for a second time. The other one throws his glasses in the lake while trying to save the other one's phone.
Yeah.
I've got to work on my list of friends.
I mean, I feel like I saved the right piece of equipment in that particular scenario. You know?
Well, I don't know. You saved the piece of equipment that wasn't yours, so
Well, it was more expensive.
It was a very selfless sacrifice.
That's right.
Of you,
That's
Chris.
right.
Did Zach at least buy the glasses?
No. No.
Of course not.
But what happened?
Because we need to work on our list of friends.
That's right. So what happened was he had an extra pair of Waterlands in the console. I threw them puppies on, and I was like, dude, I'm
this
gonna
mo
give me some
better.
of these. Yeah, these are better.
This mo better.
So
yeah, they are, man.
Literally got back home, ordered them.
Customers in the boat, especially, you know, this is first year I've really had Waterlands through the entire sight fishing season, and that they've been available to the public where everybody can kind of get them. And I had them last year through sight fishing season, but they hadn't been quite released yet. Anyways, I've had so many customers get my boat with different brands of glasses on, whatever. They're like, how are you seeing those fish? And I keep an extra pair with the same green mirror lens, copper green mirror lens in the boat. And they put them on and they're like, oh, no, your eyes aren't that great. I see everything now, you know.
Yeah, they are that good.
It's for real and legit.
The real deal.
What's up, broskies? What's up, Bass Raider? Tom G. Appreciate all you guys joining us. If I didn't get to you, I apologize. Man, I'll tell you what, it is going to be an awesome week. I don't want to talk about any of the Lake Fork tournament stuff. I just want to talk to Mercer about it. So you want to go ahead and give the old MC a ring there.
Let's do it.
Let's duet.
Duet. Duet.
Put that sucker on speaker and let's go.
Boom. I almost FaceTimed him. You can close that.
Maybe.
Wait. Oh, yeah.
I was worried maybe your phone wouldn't call Canada.
No, it calls Canada. I got a Canadian buddy. That's how I know.
What if he doesn't answer? What if he just... Nope, doesn't answer.
Yo.
The MC, Mr. Dave Mercer, is now live with us on the Fish Life lowest budget. Actually, never mind, we're not going to do that. A podcast. It's a fishing podcast. How are you doing?
I backlashed my freaking headset here while I answered the phone. So hold on, let me get this untangled. I might sound better here in a split second.
We backlashed a headset. Boy, you sound like all of my God customers. They can backlash anything.
Does it sound better now?
Well, you know what? I was just so happy to have you on the show. It sounded wonderful, but now I'm just beside myself. I don't know what to do.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate you guys doing a special early show, so you're probably sober.
Hey.
Hey.
I guess maybe you've seen some of our previous work.
I'm a big fan. man, those are some of my favorite shows.
Yeah,
I really think that it should be a 3-drink minimum before you hit the live button.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're going early today because I have some official business to take care of after. So we are completely sober. So this is probably going to be terrible. But yes, we do. We have been known to get a little loose around here, you might say.
I mean, it's all having a good time. I mean, it works. I watch it. I enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and you guys up there in Canada, y'all have been known to drink one or two, eh?
Well, I mean, people wonder, you guys dealt with like an Arctic blast for like 6 days this winter, and what did everyone do down there?
Yeah.
We deal with it for about 6 months, so what do you think we do here?
That's a very valid point, sir. Very, very valid point.
I didn't realize there was such a correlation here.
That makes total sense. I've never thought about it because
it really is. If we had freaking Lake Fork and it wasn't frozen all the time, I guarantee you I would drink a lot less.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. You got to get up early for that deal. Yeah, no, I've lived in the South my whole life, so I've never I've never even thought about the correlation between cold weather and drinking. But you're right. You're 100% right. I drink a lot more in the winter.
See, I always
keeps
do
you
too.
Warm, keeps you sane, keeps you happy, really, whatever it takes.
Absolutely. So we're definitely going to dive in heavy on Lake Fork and his phone call. But, man, tell me about the Sabine River. That was it's always a very interesting and different type of tournament down there. But how awesome was it for you as the MC? Because tell us about the crowds. I mean, they're crazy down there. The crowds are nuts.
It's nuts. I mean, every time I leave there, I'm like, man, could you imagine how big the crowds would be if they actually had bass here?
Yeah.
No, it's a crazy event, guys, and you know it says a lot about community. When you look at you know, obviously they set another record there, but 9 out of the top 10 biggest Elite Series crowds are from either there or Waddington, New York. And not only are they separated, you know, by miles and miles, but the two things they have in common is they're really small communities. And they come together and they make this tremendous event. But I think that's kind of the magic of it because, you know, it's their Olympics. It's everything to that community. You know what I mean? It's such a huge fundraiser. It's such a big event. So, I mean, it really says a lot about the communities, but it's always, I swear to you, it's an emotional roller coaster covering that event because every time you go there, I mean, number one, it seems like it takes a few of them to get to go there because there's floods, because there's hurricanes, there's different things, COVID, that we've had to reschedule around, and it seems like that event has been cursed with that. But, man, so you go there and you're kind of at the beginning of it. And you hear a lot of the anglers say, man, these fish are small. And be honest, the first day or so, you're like, man, what are we doing here? And then as that event starts to build, and then as the stories start to build, you know what I mean? All the things that people making runs to Houston, Lee Livesey jumping cows, literally jumping a dead cow was one of the stories. I mean, there's so many weird, bizarre things that happen in that event, and every single time I leave there, I'm like, man, we need to come back here more and more, just because the crowds are so cool. You know, and every Bassmaster event is different. Don't get me wrong. As an angler, I'm never like outside of the Classic. I'm most excited for this event coming this week on Lake Fork. I'm no different than the anglers who want to catch giant fish, but I think you need to have, you know, a variety, really.
Yeah.
I mean, for the viewer and for when we're covering it, man, if it was always, I mean, maybe if it was always Lake Fork, it'd be pretty phenomenal. I mean, you can't really complain about that. But
that's just my life, though. That's just my life.
You know, yeah, you guys know that. And that's the thing about Lake Fork that I love. It's weird. It's like the Keys, where people go there and they never leave. Like, it is one of those destinations. And really, when you think about it, there's not a lot of places like that. There's Lake Fork. You hear that a lot at Lake Fork. You hear that a lot at the Florida Keys. You hear that a lot at Gunnersville, where people go there and they just say, this is where I need to live. So Lake Fork's special, but Sabine was special in a different way.
Right.
And I think that when you look at bass and you look at the Elite Series, you have to be realistic. Whether you're an angler, whether you're the MC, whether you're the tournament director, whether you're a sponsor, every event scratches a different itch. Every event answers things. You know, there's times we go to places where the fishing's real good, but we know we're not going to have a great crowd, like the Pata. Well,
Right.
Sabine is one of those ones we go to where we know the fishing's going to be tough, but the crowd's going to be incredible. So maybe that's when you do more for the sponsors and more for the fans as opposed to the actual anglers competing. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Orange and about the Sabine River is the surprise factor, like you talk about it. And listen, you know, Lee Livesey is from right here. Guided, I guess it's not really a competition when you're guiding, but with him, against him, whatever. Like I was on the same lake as him every day for several years, and I don't know Lee personally real well. Like we've never hung out outside of seeing each other at the marina or whatever, but maybe once or twice. But anyway,
Really shocks me.
I don't know him
You
that.
guys have a lot in common.
I know we do. I kind of sense that, but I don't know Lee all that well. But I know him well enough to know this: he lives a send it kind of lifestyle. So the fact that he ran to the Trinity River and jumped dead cows or whatever he didn't shock me at all that he was the one doing that.
No, that nobody was shocked to, but that's kind of what I love about Lee. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Lee, everybody, I would say that it doesn't matter what your personality is. If you're genuine, people like that. And Lee is 1,000% genuine. He's the person, you know, that you expect him to be. He's not playing a character. So to see him doing stuff like that, but I think that's also like an East Texas kind of, like, dude, I mean, Kelly Jordan's one of my best friends. I mean, he was one of the first guys I ever met that fished the Elite Series at the time. And he's very much the same way. You know what I mean? And I think it's because, man, you guys don't play small ball. You know, I've always called the Lake Fork event the home run derby of professional bass fishing, and that's really how a lot of the anglers that come from that area compete. You know,
Sure.
And if you look at Kelly, a prime example, you know, I remember so many events where he would literally weigh in like 29 pounds one day, and then the next day, you know, come in with 8 pounds.
Right.
And you'd be like, dude, well, why didn't you do this? And he'd be like, man, I'm not trying to get 10th. I'm trying to win this tournament.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and everybody respects that about an angler, I'd say.
It's definitely in the culture firm around here to go for it for big fish. I mean, there's very few guys around here that are, I just want to go get some bites. Everybody's trying to catch the biggest fish they can. And, you know, the way I've always looked at it, because I've grown up, of course, watching the Bassmasters and everything else, I just try to catch the biggest five. Like, it's not that I don't like Major League Fishing. I really, you know, I've said this before on this podcast, the buzzer beater format and the elimination and stuff to me is great. It adds storylines. It makes the storytelling easier for the guys that are trying to tell the story in coverage. But it can allow people with the scoreboard and all that stuff to be able to follow along in the live coverage when they don't really understand fishing that well. So it does, I think they have some advantages there. But the whole counting every fish deal, I've gotten better about it, but I still struggle to wrap my head around anything other than best five. Because that's just what I've always known. And every day I go out, I tell people, guide customers all the time on the phone and everything, if you're booking a dude to go catch a bunch of fish, I'm not your guy. We're going out to catch the biggest 5 fish we can in this boat every day. And that's what we're trying to do. And I'll probably get a lot less bites than a lot of other guides because that's just how I want to fish. But there's a lot of dudes like that down here, though.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, before I say anything, I mean, whenever I say anything but MLS, somebody somewhere is going to find a way to spin it that it's negative. And it's not. Because, I mean, I love a lot of those guys. I mean, but those guys, I mean, I'll call a spade, you know, like I could have maybe worked there. But it's not about what they're doing right or wrong. In my opinion, 5 fish, and it's like watching imagine a NASCAR race where there's no limiter. And that sounds good on paper. But what happens when somebody gets 2 laps ahead and you just watch somebody go off? And to me, 5 fish forces you to become a better angler. And it's not so much 5 fish, it's the limit. It is the cap. Because, for example, if you think of, and I'll use an MLF guy example, Monty Bo, when he won the Bassmaster Classic, on day 1, I think his second fish of the day was that 6-pounder. When he caught that 6-pounder at that exact moment on day 1 of the Bassmaster Classic, you knew that fish had impacted the entire tournament for the rest of that event. And it's now totally changed the complexity and how everybody has to fish, because now you're forced to catch that guy. If it's in a format where there's no limit and anybody can eat, I mean, that 6-pounder is just 3 2-pounders.
Right.
What's
Exactly.
the difference?
Yeah.
So that to me is what makes it appealing. But here's what I will say that I love about MLS. I love the fact that they're trying something different.
Yes.
In a world where everybody, let's be honest, everything is a knockoff of something. Nothing's been original since the freaking Beatles. So in a world where everybody's trying to knock things off, I love originality. I love people that try things different, and I do appreciate that. And I think that if MLS ever moved from that, it would be a huge mistake, because you just be another tour trying to be the Elite Series. You know what I mean? Right. And it'd be the same thing if Bass tried to do what they're doing. I mean, so I look at it as it's a good time in fishing to be able to look at both. You know what I mean? Like, as a bass fishing fans today are freaking spoiled. I mean,
yes.
I had a VCR until just a few years ago because I wanted to watch old Bassmaster tapes. You guys can watch live bass fishing almost every single freaking weekend of the year. It's incredible in that respect.
Yeah, there's definitely never been a better time. We've said this on this show ever since the split happened. Our stance has been there's no better time to have ever been a bass fishing fan than now, because now we have 2 tours that are doing things at the top-notch way, and they're different, and so it keeps it interesting. And is it sometimes confusing to follow the new format because you're not familiar with it? Sure it is. It's new. But there's just so many options. You're right. There's never been a better time to be a bass fishing fan. There's never been a better time to be in a bass fishing industry, honestly, because of just the circumstances of new live coverage coming into play, better live coverage coming into play, social media content, pros on social media now, Googans on social media now, idiots like me on social media putting out fishing videos every single week. Like, you never have to want for fishing content. Like back in the day, like you're talking about, I was setting DVR recordings for Facts of Fishing and every other show that there was because I wanted to watch more fishing. And now nobody has to look very hard for more fishing. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And nothing's a secret anymore. That's the
true.
other thing. Like, everything that you look at, the biggest deal in the last year, nobody's going to argue this. I mean, I'm sponsored by Humminbird, but I'll straight up tell you the biggest deal that everyone's talked about, obviously, forward-facing sonar. And you look at that and how that has evolved. Well, that evolved so quickly, not just because of technology, because the technology was distributed to the world so quickly. You know what I mean? There were things that for years guys would literally, like, we'd know about them, and you'd be like, well, this is kind of the deal that nobody's talking about. And I mean, stupid stuff, like micro swim baits, those little swim baits. For several years, that was kind of like a hidden thing in the elites, and then it slowly got out there, and then everybody started throwing them, and now it's not even looked upon as a secret. You know what I mean? It's not a big, but that lasted for a while. You look at how quick the world has embraced forward-facing sonar and how quick. The first one on the Elite that really stood out was definitely Lake St. Clair, where it went nuts and all the smallmouth guys were going crazy. But then when Patrick did what he did on Fork, it exploded. I think that's the cool thing, and stuff gets better. So it's not where in the past we all wanted to keep everything a secret. Let's be honest, and we still do, right? But the difference is now Patrick figured this out, and so figured this out, and Jacob Wheeler figured this out, and now all these pieces, and now the average angler gets it so much quicker and gets so much better at things. So it really is, it's really cool. It's hard for somebody that covers the sport. Sometimes it's hard, because there's so much coming at you so quick, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, 100% agree. It's never been a better time to be a bass fisherman and never been a worse time to be a bass. Because there's so many new anglers with all this new technology and all the information like you're talking about. Everybody's getting better, faster, and these high school kids are better than we ever thought about being in our 20s, and it's just nuts. There has to be a higher percentage of bass getting caught than used to be.
So I got a question for both of y'all. So had Patrick not done what he done with the live scope on the stage he did it on, how much longer do you think the demand would have held off?
Until the next time somebody did that on that stage.
Well, because the reason I'm asking is because, like you mentioned earlier, all the other, like the YouTube guys and, everybody else that has social media and YouTube channels have been doing this for quite some time before it was showcased, so to speak.
Well, there was just a couple, but there was only a couple guys that embraced it for bass fishing. It was
Correct.
Primarily even the guy that's probably the best in the world at it, who's Josh Jones.
Right.
He was primarily considered a crappie guy who also went out and caught giant bass.
That's right.
But he really didn't get exposed for how good he is at bass fishing until after the Patrick Walters deal.
So you think it would have been a slow trickle if it would have kind of stayed?
Well, it was bound to happen at some point.
Right.
It happened when it was going to happen, basically.
Right.
What do you think, Dave?
I think it was happening already. I mean, amongst the Elite Series and, definitely, I think what Patrick did was exploded to the south. I mean,
Yes.
the smallmouth guys were already going nuts about it. If you look at what happened on St. Clair and that sort of thing. So I think it was happening. And I think that, weirdly, I have a theory about that. I think that because, and this isn't a knock on Garmin, but because Garmin, let's be honest, this is their first product that has been let's say, a marquee product. Where Humminbird had side imaging, that was their marquee product. They dominated that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's different. So this was Garmin's first, one of those. And I'm searching for the right word to call it. You know what I mean?
Everybody needs one. Just everybody has to have one.
Yeah.
Staple.
So, and I think that a lot of people, they had a lot of hokey ads with Bill Dance and bikers, costumes and stuff like that.
That was funny.
And I think literally that helped it hide for a while. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't Lowrance and it wasn't Humminbird. And, so I think that's part of it. But yeah, it was coming. And whether we wanted to hide it or not, I mean, you look what happened this spring with all of the YouTube guys and that sort of thing. Whether Patrick did that or not, it was going to happen.
Right.
And I think that it's just getting started. That's kind of that's what everybody talks about. We're all like, okay, this is, if you think back to what side imaging was and what it started like and what it is today, well, if forward-facing sonar follows that same trajectory, what's it going to be in 5 years?
Scary.
You know what I mean?
Scary.
Like, there's some guys who think it's just going to be, it'll be a casting contest. You know what I mean? Because they'll start to see further and further from the boat. And if you take it in Great Lakes territory, like, we used to be able to drop on every single fish and you catch every single one. And then it got a lot less and a lot less and a lot less. And now it's rare that you drop on them and convert to a high level. You know what I mean? Most of the time you're having to cast and get it away from the boat. So if the same thing happens in forward-facing sonar, you might have reels that are 5,000 size reels that people need to cast to have a click a bomber to get a bite.
Yeah. Shoulder surgeons are going to be in good business.
It tells me that Shimano might have been ahead of the curve with that DC.
Let me ask you guys a question, because I got to cover this little event this week, and I'm very curious. How much has fork changed, or has it changed with that technology since what Patrick did?
For the locals, for this time of year, it's not incredibly effective. There's definitely a few more guys picking up picking up and using it over the winter. And we actually have one local guide here named Jack York who was a very early adopter of it and pretty much live scoped all of last year. Now, Jack is still in collegiate angling as well, so he leaves for part of the year and then comes back and all that. But he actually just recently came back, and it was so funny because everybody's up there looking at bedfish every day. I mean, we're sight fishing every day right now. You know, a lot of guys are. Our guys are fishing wind-blown shallow points, staging stuff like that. Jack came back for a short spell. He just went out there on the main lake in September and started live scoping and was catching like 35 pounds every day. Wow. So it's there to be had. I just shot it today. I've got a really in-depth preview video of the tournament talking about all the different conditions, all the different type of bites that we the different patterns that we should see play in this event coming up. And to me, Dave, what happened is we had a delay of our spawning cycle because of the freeze.
Yeah.
And then not just the freeze, but throughout the month, most of March, the water just never really warmed up. We didn't get enough warm nights, enough warm days strung together to get the water temps going in the right direction to cause a big wave of spawners. So really, the first significant wave of spawners happened the last week of March. And some of those fish would spawn or go to spawn, and then they would get cold again and they back off. And so we're really just getting into our first big wave of fish that's been up for the last week or two. And there's going to be a ton of fish relating to spawning areas. They may already have spawned, but they're not all the way back out yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think this tournament is going to be heavily predicated on fish that are relating to shallow junk, flooded vegetation, submergent vegetation, extremely shallow fish where the forward-facing sonar is going to be limited in how much of that we see these guys doing in the tournament. I also could be completely wrong because these guys are the best in the world, and I don't put it past Patrick Walters or several other of those guys to go do what Jack York did and find enough fish suspending in trees to catch big bags.
It's going to be interesting, but I'll give you a stat, guys, or just a quote that blew me away. If you don't think that technology has changed things, everybody saw what happened this year with the crazy amount of Sharelunkers in Texas, and you guys were freaking out week after week, obviously. And I asked, Kyle Brookser from the Sharelunker program, and I'm like, why is it happening? And he gave me a bunch of different reasons, but listed in the top 3 of those reasons, obviously, and you guys, I don't need to, that's me telling you this, it's dumb, to talk about Sharelunker to you guys, because you understand how that whole program works, and I've learned a lot of it from listening to you guys. But the one thing that blew me away in his 3 bullet points, his top 3 bullet points, it was that technology. Mm-hmm. Texas Parks and Wildlife is saying that this fishing is happening and it's good because of this, and this, but a major reason is because guys are now accessing fish and effectively catching fish that they never ever would before. And not just any fish, but the biggest fish, the ones that none of us ever caught. And that's why those true giants are so tough to catch, because you could catch them off a bed, but those big fish, in my experience, they're up there for such a short window.
Yes.
But if you have that technology, that window gets a whole lot bigger because you're not waiting for them to come up.
It's turned into somewhat year-round sight fishing, and absolutely, and I'm sure Kyle Brookser probably told you the same thing. I've had probably the same conversation with him, honestly, and I've talked to him extensively as well, and we are.
When he talked to me, he told me I was his exclusive source.
Well, us Texas boys, we got to take care of each other now, Dave. We can't be letting the Canadians come down here and get all the goods.
Oh, okay.
But we are experiencing a little bit of statewide new lake syndrome from 2011 to 14. Yeah. Every lake in the state was in a drought. So we had really good spawns in 14, 15, 16. So we got a lot of fish that are starting to mature and get really, really big that were, had high survival rates with those good spawns in the new lake situation. Then the Sharelunker program is a huge part of what's going on in Texas, obviously. What they've done with stocking Sharelunker genetics, and they've proven that it does grow a bigger fish if you breed it from a fish that has the potential to get that big. And what they're going to continue to do is just amazing. They're actually, they stock several 100,000 Sharelunker direct descended offspring every year. And then they have Florida strain broodstock that they stock 4 to 6 million with. Well, they're in the process now of converting their brood stock to Sharelunker offspring. So eventually, that 4 to 6 million that gets stocked every year is not only going to be Florida strain, but it will be second generation Sharelunker offspring. Instead of a few 100,000, we're going to have millions of Sharelunker offspring going into our lakes every year.
Wow. I'll be honest, from a guy, I don't know if you guys realize this. I mean, I live in Canada, but Texas is a place that's special to me just because of how many events I've done there. Texas is so special to me. I once had a dog named Tex, no joke. It was a female dog. So that's how much I must love Texas. I got the dog from Kelly Jordan's wedding, long story short. But Texas is a special place for me, and one of the things that blows me away, and I don't want to get controversial, is the amount of people that, like, when I started talking about the Sharelunker program, the amount of people in Texas that hate on it, which blew me away, because literally, as a guy who travels from state to state and country to country covering bass tournaments, when I say Texas is the gold standard for wildlife management,
yes,
that ain't shit that I'm just saying on stage. That's real. Like, other states, what Texas does for you guys is incredible. And I mean, part of that's because of the size and the way it's funded, but maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. But it just blew me away, to be honest. Like, all the years, maybe I just spent too much time with Texas Parks and Wildlife officials to hear the bad stuff.
Right.
But I was shocked
that boils
anybody would be against it.
Well, that boils down to there have been a couple instances where fish were, Sharelunkers, and they were just at the end of their lifespan, and there's nothing that could have been done differently from the Sharelunker program and its employees to keep that fish alive. And a couple of them died, and the blame obviously got put on.
Plus, let's be real here. This is Texas, and this is fishing. And Dave, the fishing crowd tends to be more old school oriented than the general population would be. And in Texas, we tend to be more old school so you take Texas anglers, they're extremely old school oriented. And that is phenomenal. That's one of my favorite things about it. You get, more family values, traditional values, friendship, taking care of each other. Like, all the good stuff is great. And it far outweighs the negative. But they're a little slow to accept new things. Might even say extremely slow to accept new things at times. And yes, they did have some Sharelunkers die, but they have over a 90% survival rate throughout the program's history. This year they took in 22 fish and only one died. And it wasn't the Sharelunkers' fault. It wasn't their program's fault. The fish just never settled down after they caught her. They could never get her right. When those fish go into Sharelunker, they actually go into a triage where they have, they're treating every scar, every wound, keeping them oxygenated, keeping the pH balance, the salinity levels are all equal. Like, that fish is getting treated better than it could in any Mother Nature situation. And after learning everything about all the details about how they handle those fish, I've come to the conclusion, for me, my personal opinion is, any fish that dies in their care was going to die, because there's no way it would be better off in Mother Nature than the way they treat it.
As a guy who's worked with them at all the TTBCs, I 1,000% concur. To the point that I'd get frustrated at guys like Dave Terry and stuff, like, hold the fish this way and that way. And, you know what I mean? They're so, literally, I'm like, we're also putting on a bit of a show here, Dave. But man, that just shows how much they care. You know what I mean? They look at that fish, and I know this seems strange, but in some ways they care more about that fish than the dude who just caught him, or the lady that just caught that fish.
Absolutely. That's that's their job, and they take great pride in doing it well to preserve that resource. And I'll tell you what, I recently got to witness. I know you saw the 15-pounder that was caught at the Bass Champs tournament, Mega Bass on Lake Fork. I got to witness that fish being transferred from the live release boat to the Sharelunker tank. And I'm going to tell you, they are not playing around. They didn't care how many people wanted to see it. They're not playing around when it comes to handling that fish.
And you think about it, it should be to their benefit to do the opposite. You know, get as million pictures of this fish. Get everybody seeing this 15-pounder, because one good picture of that 15-pounder is going to book how many trips. But they don't care about that. They know how valuable that fish is. So, yeah, I think they do a pretty awesome job.
They do.
I don't know how we got into this Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Well,
hopefully we get paid for it.
It's only appropriate considering that the tournament that you're coming to host this week, the tournament that Bassmaster Elite Series puts on this week, is Texas Fest, and it's all about Texas Parks and Wildlife and what they do for the state. So I think it's actually a really appropriate topic. And I actually, what are you looking forward to most about the event this week is something I wanted to ask you.
Just to see how freaky it gets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, really, I've seen so many different forks. I've seen forks that people were like, this is never going to get better. But in my opinion, I mean, this year may be the best ever. I don't know. I'm really going to lean on you guys for that. But I just think that, like, anything can happen. The fish got to be caught. You know, there's a lot. But I just think the way it's setting up this year is going to be phenomenal. And I really am interested to see how many guys absolutely break off every fish on day number one, because they came from the Sabine River to freaking Lake Fork, and if you ask me, that is not fair.
No, it's a total, like, we're going from the lowest weight of the year to what will almost guaranteed going to be the biggest total weight of the year at the end of this event. I mean, I don't see anything else on the schedule that's going to compete with it, honestly, in my opinion. But yeah, and bro, these fish, everything, remember, like I said, everything got delayed this year. They're fresh. Like, they're real fresh, and a 3-pounder off a bed will run up under your boat, wrap around your trolling motor, and start laughing at you right now if you ain't careful. So there could be some of that. They're mad right now for whatever reason, but it's going to be a great tournament. It's going to be different than anything we've seen the tour level guys fish on Lake Fork ever in the history of Lake Fork. We've never had the tour level.
More shallow, you think? More shallow?
Yeah.
Like, normally it's kind of split up.
Mixed, right. Yeah, and so what with the delay of the spawn, and then you guys are here a little bit earlier in the schedule. You know, y'all were here in early May before, but in that year, we didn't have a whole lot of bed fishing left. I mean, there was some, you know, Brandon Cobb caught the giant off the bed, and Drew Benton fished the whole tournament off beds, and there were some guys sight fishing, but predominantly the majority of the fish in the lake were done spawning at that point. So we've never had a tour level event come when the majority of the fish in the lake are either spawning or right around spawning, where they're still in those type of areas. So it's going to be kind of, to me, a wide open event where guys can go up in the dirty water and frog and flip, and guys can go in the clear water and look at them, or guys can throw a swim bait on windblown points, or because there are fish that just live in the trees all year, guys could be out there doing the forward-facing sonar deal. So it's going to be pretty wide open, and I'm anxious to see how many big fish these sight fishermen catch, because they can pass up everything. You know, they can go start their day out and catch 20 or 25 pounds, and then now they don't stop unless it's 7 or 8 pounds. And, buddy, there's plenty of fish over 7 or 8 pounds on beds for everybody right now.
What do you think the winning weight's going to be? Is it like, there's no way it's under 100, is it?
No,
I think the all-time record's going down.
Yeah, I mean, the 130 pounds is not out of the question at all to me. I think.
Come on, really?
It's not out of the question. I think it's at least 115, 120 at least. And Dave, we've got really cold nights this week. Like, we're going to the tournament should get better as it goes on because of the weather trends. And there's a full moon at the end of y'all's event. So that should bring some new big ones in as it happens. Like, you know, but going in the tournament during practice, you're going to have this, and you've talked about this before. I've heard you talk about it. You're going to have the old, man, I can't catch nothing in practice, and then that dude goes out and whacks them, because we're going to have really cold nights like Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then Thursday night going into Friday, the night's going to get a lot warmer. So it's going to be, because the daylight period is growing this time of year, we should have the water, even with the cooler nights, kind of trend upward in temperature throughout the week. And we've got a full moon coming at the end of the weekend. Man, it could be like, hold on. I think there's going to be 5 guys over 100 pounds. That's what I think.
Wow.
And I don't know what's going to win it, but I honestly don't think there's any way there's less than 5 of those level of anglers that don't catch 25 pounds a day. I mean, it's easy to catch 25 pounds a day right now. Like, it really is.
Wow.
And I can't necessarily do it every single day, but these guys can. You know, I can do it 3 out of 4 days right now. So if I can do that, these guys can do it for 4.
And you think about it with the weather the way it is. Now I know the lake's going to get more pressure on the weekend from pleasure anglers, but when you think about it, a lot of times, that sight bite, it all goes down on day 1 and day 2, like a traditional Florida event, and then you just kind of small ball your way to the title at the end.
Right.
This one, with the field getting smaller as it moves on, going to give those guys more space, and I think it's going to be.
Yep.
It's really setting up to be something.
Well,
I mean, it really sounds like we are totally sliming everybody. You got to tune in. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I know.
But it really freaking is going to be awesome.
No doubt. And the other factor, too, is we're releasing all the fish back in the lake. So when you catch that 4 or 5 pound really big male, he doesn't go to weigh in. He goes back on the bed.
Right.
He goes back on the bed, and then if you want to, I guess legally you can catch him the next day, or maybe he gets an 8 or 9 or 10 pound girlfriend because he's still on the bed.
Wow. It's going to be fun. It's going to be pretty awesome.
What is that?
You guys asked me about Sabine. Here's the difference. I had to work hard at Sabine. Not that it wasn't exciting. It's always exciting to see someone win. But there are some tournaments where you just get to lean on that podium and let the freaking fish speak. And this is one of those, and I can't wait.
Hey, you better just not talk the rest of the week and save your voice, because there's going to be a lot of boom shakalakas going on. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, that is the part where Boom Shakalaka was born. Well, I mean, it really was born in NBA Jam, a video game I played a lot when I was a kid. But that's where I started it all. So, and that's why Fork's so cool to me too, man. Like, if it wasn't for that event,
right,
I don't have my job. Like, there's no way Bass hires me without
the
TTBC. Which
tell us that story.
Right there.
Tell us that full story. Tell the folks how that worked out, because that's pretty interesting. Because most of our listeners are well aware of what the Toyota Texas Bass Classic was back in the day. So tell us how Dave Mercer became the MC.
Well, I mean, I basically, there's 2 things I've always loved to do my whole life: fish and talk and entertain. You know what I mean? I won the speech contest every year in my school. And actually they had to put a rule in. They put a rule in after a few years that you had to write your speech, because I got busted one year where I totally made it up and just talked.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And so they made it the next year you got to put cue cards in. So I don't think I'm really good at anything, but I'm not good at other things. So the 2 things I've always been comfortable at is fishing and talking. And, I initially wanted to be a tournament angler, and I grew up fishing tournaments and did okay here at home. And, but in my early 20s, I was like, man, I don't think I want that life. And,
right.
And that's one of the reasons I think I'm okay at the job, because I have so much respect for the guys that do it. It is a tough gig. I mean, being a guide on a lake is a tough gig, but there's nothing tougher than being away from your family for months at a time. And some people are meant for that, and some people can handle that. But I knew early in my life, I'm like, I'll be miserable. I will be a miserable alcoholic failure. It won't work out good for me. So I started focusing on my early 20s. I started focusing on TV, and literally I went to, I don't know if you know a guy named Bob Azumi. He's kind of a big deal in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
His show's been around. And I literally went to his house one day, because we competed against each other in tournaments. He had a really nice house, and I was like, Bob, how did you get this? And he's like, I'm from my TV show. And I was like, well, I need to start a TV show. So I got in the TV business, and that's a big, long story, and did that for years and competed in tournaments. But I would always go to the Classic, and I went to 10 Classics before I ever worked for Bass. But I knew people from the industry, and I got to know a bunch of different people, and I got to know a guy by the name of Lenny Francoeur, who became the tournament director for the TTBC. But he worked for a company called Octagon, and Octagon is a sports marketing company, and they're the reason that the TTBC was what it was. I mean, Gulf States Toyota and Texas Parks and Wildlife funded it and made it, but these are the guys that boots on the ground that put the event
Right.
together. They run golf tournaments, and that's the reason that they had those incredible suites and everything. Like, if you look at some of the stuff TTBC did, it's never happened and may never happen again. You know, that event was truly amazing. So anyways, Lenny is my conduit, because he called me up one day and he said, and I had been emceeing some tournaments at home, you know, bigger Canadian tournaments and charity events, that sort of thing. And Lenny called up and he said, hey, we are having this big event where we're going to take the top guys from Bass, the top guys from FLW and all this, and it's going to be this. And he said, we need an MC. And that was on the phone. I'm like, yes. And he's like, don't worry, it's not you. And I was like, he said, but we do need like a sideshow guy. And I'm like, well, what do you mean a sideshow guy? Well, whoever, we don't know who the MC is going to be, but whoever it is, we need a guy that's going to run around in the crowd and give away prizes and all sorts of stuff. And I said, well, sure. I mean, I was just looking for a gig, you know. I mean, it wasn't like I was looking for it, but I was looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
And so then we were like, well, who do we hire to MC? And it was me who was like, man, I think you should hire Fish Fishburne, because I had grown up as a huge Fish Fishburne fan, and like a lot of us, you know. So we contacted Fish Fishburne. Fish Fishburne worked the first one, and I was the sideshow guy, running around, you know, giving away prizes and interviewing the anglers. So I did that, and then a year later, Fish went a different direction, and they decided to hire me as the full-time MC of it. I don't think they hired me. I think they just said, well, now you're doing this.
Default.
So, yeah. And I was like, sure, I'm not getting fired, so I'm all in.
Right,
So I
right.
did that, and that event kind of evolved, and it became, you know, bigger and bigger. And then after and that event, really, if you look at, you want to talk about history in Lake Fork, man, everything we talked about here today literally has a connection to that event.
Mm-hmm.
You know, MLF. Well, what was MLF before? It was the PAA. You know what I mean? Gary Klein and all those guys were working on that. You know what I mean? And that was, so there's so many offshoots that come from that event. But thankfully, I'm one of them.
Even the whole Way in the Boat Release the Fish format happened because of the Slot on Fork at that event at the TTBC. That's where it started.
That's right. I mean, they created it, and I mean, that's not a slight on MLF, obviously, but I mean, they don't get enough credit for creating that. You know, I think most of the industry thinks that's an MLF thing, but it was literally because of Lake Fork, and the whole reason for it was Donato Ramos and Dan Friedkin. Dan Friedkin's the Texas Park. They're both Texas Parks and Wildlife commissioners, but Dan Friedkin from Gulf States Toyota, they wanted to have like an event that celebrated Texas Parks and Wildlife, and Kelly Jordan was the kind of conduit that brought them all together. So it was all for a way to have an event on Lake Fork, because this incredible trophy bass fishery, but it can't have a pro level event. So they designed that, and through that I became the MC, and then one thing led to another, and one day I remember, literally, anybody that ever tells you, like, if you want something, you know, not to sound like Oprah, but like the whole throw it out there and you never know what'll happen. I became pretty tight with Mark Zona and Kevin Van Dam over the years through different events and stuff. And one night we were at a bar, and I was like, hey guys, if Bass is ever looking for somebody, for anything. Like, I wasn't meaning to MC. I was like, I'll do web videos or whatever. I just wanted to be part of Bass. I mean, I
of course,
idolizing that stuff, and that was everything to me. And I just threw it out there, and it's just so weird how things were happening. Well, unbeknownst to me, at the same time, Bass is being bought, and I didn't know. You know what I mean? I had no idea that Bass was being bought by Jerry McKinnis, Don Logan, and Jim Copeland. So I ended up working for Bass, you know, just by throwing it out there, you know, and it all happened because of Lake Forks, to be honest. And if you've got time, I'll tell you the most bizarre part about the whole story.
Let's go.
And it is This is the most bizarre thing ever, and it's really the ballsiest thing I ever did in my life, and it could have been the reason that we would never have met, but it is the reason that me and you have met, and it's the reason that I've got to do so many cool things.
I'm here for this.
So they say to me, I go when I meet with Bass and everything, and like I said, I don't even know what I'm applying for. I just want to work for Bass. So basically, I have these meetings with Bass, and they're like, "Hey, we want to hire you to be the MC, and but you need to meet Jerry McKinnis first, and you need to kind of get his seal of approval because he is one of the owners." And I was like, "Okay," and I did not know Jerry at all. I knew who Jerry was, obviously, which made it worse because I was a little nervous around him because he's freaking Jerry McKinnis, right? So I fly to Little Rock, Arkansas, and I don't get nervous. Literally, I don't get nervous about anything. I guess I just don't care enough. I don't know. I just don't get nervous. But now all of a sudden I'm nervous because now I'm being told that if this meeting goes good, you get your dream job.
Right.
And it's not just a dream job. It's a job that is an unfathomable dream. And you think about it, it's kind of, I always equate it to, it's like a stand-up comic saying, I want to host the Tonight Show. I mean, you could be a really good stand-up comic, but they don't hire that often. There's probably better MCs than me out there, but Bass doesn't hire that often. And
right.
If I can have it my way, I don't want them to hire anytime soon. I would like to just
Yeah.
So I'm nervous, a little nervous. I fly to Little Rock. I go and their office is phenomenal. It's like an old, think of it like a stone warehouse, kind of cool urban feel to it. It's called the Fish Factory. You go in and you meet, and Jerry's office is like the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, basically. It's got, Takehiro's jerseys hanging on the wall, like from the, like not just a jersey, like the jersey, I knew it, that jersey is hanging on the wall. Every piece of history you're walking past as you go in there. And then he's got his little dog, Arch, which I'm allergic to dogs, but I didn't care. I was petting the crap out of Arch.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
just thought, if this dog doesn't like me,
right.
no way I'm getting this. So this meeting, like when you meet with Jerry McKinnis, it's not like a regular interview. You know what I mean? Like you think of an interview, people are like, what do you bring to this corporation? Are you a team player? Like we would talk about fishing. We'd talk about baseball. We'd talk about smallmouth. He loves smallmouth bass, obviously. But we'd go all over the place, and then every once in a while, he'd like throw a work question at me. So, I mean, this thing went on for like 3 hours. Like it was ridiculously long. And to be honest, I mean, I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, what is happening here? Like, have I totally lost this job, or am I getting this job? And Jerry says to me, after about 3 hours, he starts talking to me about, he's like, it's so great, Mercer, the support we're getting, man. He goes, so many people are excited about the new ownership of Bass. And he pulls out this magazine. He's like, you see this here? He's like, we even got media in Japan. And he pulls out Bassmaster magazine. And that's a Japanese publication that, if you've seen it, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's visually, it's one of the coolest looking magazines out there. It's their Bassmaster magazine. But he pulls it out, and like there's the center page spread about the new ownership of Bass. And he's like, I can't believe the exposure we're getting. Look at this from Japan. He's like, well, I can't read it, so I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. And dude, I don't know if you realize this about me, but a lot of times stuff comes out of my mouth, and then all of a sudden I realize what came out.
Yeah, no, we have that in common.
My dad used to say, son, you need to learn how to put your brain in gear before you put your mouth in drive. And that is not a task that I've, figured out yet. But without missing a beat, I turned to Jerry and I said, I can read it. And Jerry looks at me and like there's this pause and he's like, what? And in my head, all this like images are flashing of just me calling my wife from the rental car on the way home, telling her how I screwed it all up. It was going good, that I told a lie. So Jerry's like, Jerry's like, you can read it. And by this point, guys, I've committed to this lie. I mean, I do not lie, but when you do, you commit to it and you don't back down. And I literally looked at Jerry, with almost disdain, and I'm like, Jerry, do you want me to read it to you or not? And he's kind of startled, and he hands me the magazine. So I grabbed the magazine, and I swear to you, I don't know if it was dead relatives that possessed my body and made it come out smooth, but I've never been able to repeat it the way I did that day in that office. But it was basically, Jerry McKinnis has been a leader since day number one. From his early days with the Oakland Athletics organization to his innovation from tournament coverage, whether it be through FLW and now as the new owner of Bass, we at Bassmaster Magazine have it under strict confidence that he is about to make one of the most prudent decisions of his business career and hire Dave Mercer to MC the Bassmaster Classic. And when it came out of my mouth, I was like, oh boy. And there was like a silence that it might have only been 5-6 seconds, but it felt like 5 or 6 minutes. And Jerry looked at me and he's like, you don't speak Japanese, do you? And I said, no, Jerry, I don't. And he goes, you're going to do pretty good at this job. You're hired. And put his hand up and shook my hand.
You've got to be kidding me.
Maybe just children do not lie.
No.
But if you do, damn it, make it a good one.
Yeah. That is, I've never heard that story. That is tremendous. That is, I can't thank you enough for sharing that. That is, that's unbelievable. That's a great story.
We do have something.
It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And unfortunately, we lost Jerry a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Man, one of my most prized possessions is I have that magazine. Not the actual one, but I got one afterwards.
Right.
And got him to sign it. And I have that hanging in my office. And it's Jerry, went on to be an incredible mentor, incredible person in my life, and I feel bad. I never lied to him after that. I was just
well, that's good.
It wasn't my fault. It just came out.
That's good. That is I don't really know where to go after that. I think that's a great way to wrap this up. I really do appreciate you talked this for a very long time, Dave, and I can't thank you enough. And I really look forward to seeing you this week, man. I'll be around weigh-ins every chance I get, and if you see me before I see you, say hello, okay?
Yeah, let's make sure to hook up for sure, and make sure you guys don't have meetings scheduled after or whatever. Okay?
Yeah, whatever I'm about to go do. Yeah, absolutely. No, hopefully there won't be any more of those. This one's kind of important, though. But, hey, also, in the spirit of throwing it out there, if you ever need a sideshow guy to go act stupid in the crowd, I can come with or without the cup of whiskey and be your guy. I'm just letting you know.
You think you can do that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's easy to talk in front of the internet, dude. But, I mean, like, if you're the sideshow guy, you got to do some crap.
Bro, listen, you're not the only one that doesn't get nervous.
Wow.
Dave,
all right.
what,
okay. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think. It really matters what the people think. In your comments, see how I'm doing this? I'm trying to get it going, the algorithm.
Yeah.
In the comments, let me know, do you think he could be the sideshow guy? And question 1 and question 2, am I stupid to hire him as the sideshow guy because he might just take my damn job?
No, I'm not taking your job. I guarantee you it's definitely a stupid decision to hire me as the sideshow guy because I'm probably going to get somebody in trouble at some point.
Probably me, but we'll have a good time doing it.
Absolutely. We sure will. Well, Dave, man, thank you again so much, man. Be safe coming down here, and we'll see you this week, brother.
I will. Hey, if you guys want to watch a really crappy podcast, tune into my crap on Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
Hey, we do.
We do. I apologize for not plugging that at the beginning. I totally meant to, and I'm not the professional you are, so maybe I'm not sideshow material. I don't know. But yes, absolutely. Watch the is it the Facts of Fishing channel? What's the channel name?
Right. Facts of Fishing?
Facts of Fishing YouTube channel, and the new name of the podcast is
Mercer.
Just Mercer.
And it is
the
on
guy
the
left, so it's just Mercer.
it is on on Apple.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, you got the podcast is on your podcast is on Apple. It's available on Apple and YouTube. iTunes,
Apple,
iTunes, and
YouTube.
YouTube.
It's on every streaming service.
That's right.
Good deal.
So yeah, well, if you're a streamer, get it there. If not, get on YouTube, and if whatever, we'll see you at Lake Fork. I'll be the guy yelling obnoxious stuff while people hold giant fish.
Let's do it. That I will be there in the front row cheering you on, brother. That sounds great, man. Thank you so much, Dave.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
All right,
bet.
bye. Not a lot to say after the MC's been on here. He's like professional at talking, though, so I wouldn't expect to be able to follow him up very well. Some really cool stories.
Are you gonna run into him? Are you gonna do anything on camera with him potentially this week?
Potentially, maybe. I'm gonna try to be there. I can't be there Thursday at the weigh-in. I can't be there, but I'm gonna try to be there maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. I just got to see how my week plays out.
Well, I got a task for you.
Okay.
We've got to figure out Big Ear Tupac, and we've got to get his hairstyle that he had to bring back.
He would have been so good at that.
That's what I was trying to do when we were wrapping it up.
We screwed everything up today.
Yeah,
I didn't plug his podcast. We didn't get our questions in.
We can still do it though. We can still.
He'll
get
come
the
on
answers.
again.
For sure.
He'll come on again.
For sure.
So, awesome job to Dave, man. We want a big shout out to Mercer. Please do go watch Facts of Fishing on YouTube is the channel.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast name is just Mercer. Just the one word, Mercer.
Mercer. That's right.
Yep. So look that up wherever you listen to podcasts at. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I do have to run. Chris, do that thing you do.
Bang, bang, boom, boom. Let's go. Big fast. Big fast. Woo!
What?
Woo! I don't know. Let's go.
You messed up your own thing.
I didn't mess nothing up.
It's
Bye.
all never planned here, folks. Never planned. I can't even hit the button to stop it. The podcast's so good it won't let us stop it.